Alright, we got top 10 best new action shonen anime from 2020 to 2023.
紫
Starting with Jujutsu Kaisen.
Action
Gojo
shonen, one of the most
Doji.
popular genres in anime as a whole. I love it, and I know you do too. But what about those who are just new to the channel or those newcomers to anime looking for new stuff to watch?
I
That's
bet
what
there's
this
some that I
list is
didn't
mainly
watch.
for.
I'm pretty
I'll
sure
be
at least
listing
3
what
of them I
feel
didn't see.
ended up being my top 10 favorite action shonen from the year 2020 until now.
Doesn't
And
have
if
to be
you're
at least
already
3 of them
updated
that I
with the
didn't
latest
see, bro.
shows, maybe you want to
There's
stick
no way I
around
see
and
all
see
of
if your
them.
favorites that started in the past few years get a shout out. Starting off at number 10 is Darwin's Game.
Already watch it. We starting good, huh?
We
Darwin
open
Game's
things up with
good,
something
bro,
that's
but there's
right
only
from the
one
start of
season. That's the
2020.
problem.
A season that I call the
There's only one
calm
season,
before
bro.
the storm, right before all hell broke
But it's a
loose.
pretty
Amongst the
interesting
numerous
anime.
survival game battle royale series that seemed to pick up for a short while a few years ago, Darwin's Game ended up being one of my favorites alongside Gleipnir. Shout out
Same.
to that one too.
pretty
Darwin's
good.
Game has a simple premise, but I think it ended up being one of its strengths. There's no super deep narrative or anything, but it didn't need to have one. It presented us with a lot of cool characters with creative applications
to
for
watch
their
it again,
powers,
you know.
duking it out in crazy battles, and that's what really matters the most. The main cast have their own charms and a quirky dynamic, all without the over-the-top axe-crazy worldviews that these kind of shows tend to employ on their leads. While there's much to be explored with the world building once it's all said and done, Darwin's Game
main
makes for a
character was
nice,
so
easy
weak in
watch
the
if you're up
power
for
at the
urban
beginning of the
fantasy
season.
action along with a dash
But
of
toward the
violence.
end,
The
my
show
boy
doesn't
became a
break any new
fucking
ground, but
bro.
it doesn't need to, especially when its main themes and points involve giving its audience
He didn't give a fuck
satisfaction
anymore.
through the displays of fighting and camaraderie. Eden Zero is number 9 on the list.
I already watched the first season. I mean, I watched a couple of episodes of the first season. But I'm not really a fan of it, to be honest. It's like fairy tale, but different, like, in a different universe.
Even before it started airing, there was a lot being said
not
about
really into
Eden
this
Zero,
type of anime.
most of them with an air of cynicism. It's a running joke to call this show fairy tale in space, and I really
Right.
don't blame anyone who does do that. Heck, I even found myself having some cheap laughs at Eden Zero's expense earlier on. However, the show itself ended up being pretty good, and I can confidently say that it's heading towards becoming one of Hiro Mashima's best works so far. Eden Zero takes the standard adventure to search for something, gives it a sci-fi flavour, and delves surprisingly deeply into the character aspect that makes such a story
Whoa.
work. Sure, I'm not
I didn't see
claiming
this
Eden
one.
Zero is some hidden masterpiece in terms of character writing, but there's really some potential to be had, especially given Mashima's reputation in his previous works. Overall, there's something magical and genuine in this adventure that makes the audience want to keep following the journeys of Shiki and Rebecca, and it's one of the most vivid examples of an author improving on his previous works. Moving from sci-fi to supernatural
I might
fantasy,
watch
we
it,
have
bro.
Kemono Jihen.
Already watch it.
Kemono Jihen is one of the shows that I was very excited for entering the winter 2021 season. Exiting that season, I do think it's
I'm
one of the
true for
underrated
true
hits
so far. I
from
already
then,
watched all of them.
overshadowed by the likes of Mushoku Tensei and its super strong lineup of sequels. Kemono Jihen settles into its niche as a dark shonen, focusing on the emotional aspects and its characters which help carry the show. There's action in spades, yes, and any veteran on anime wouldn't find anything unique in the whole mutants or monsters living amongst people setup, but I barely think that either of that's the main ingredient which makes this series work. When looking at Kemono Jihen, think something more like Dororo in terms of overall feel compared to the major mainstream hits. There's still the whole supernatural aspect that can make it a success with the audience, but the story takes things in a slight detour, opting to lean more on the mature themes that invite its audience to introspection. It's truly a hidden gem that's understandably overshadowed, but if you're up for an action shonen with the familiar supernatural setting but a really strong emphasis on character and emotional stakes,
And that's
Kemono
some men
Jihen
too, by the
may be
way.
worth your shot.
I think. No. Nah, I'm tripping. Never mind.
Rurouni Kenshin is up next.
I mean, I'm watching it. I'm not gonna say I already watch it. I'm currently watching it.
Honestly, I was a bit on the fence with including this one. Rurouni Kenshin is by no means a new anime if we consider that it's a remake,
it's not new,
unlike
it's
the
just
rest of
like
the
a
shows that I featured on this list.
remake.
However, since it is a remake, We can't treat it as a new entry, and that's fine since I want to tell you how this remake impressed me a lot. I've long been a fan of the classic Rurouni Kenshin, and this 2023 remake has basically encapsulated what I imagined a modern retelling of the legendary classic to actually be like. There's some good build up to the story, nice pacing so far, and the humour's still on point. There have been some changes, and the new voice acting's taken a while to get used to, but overall, this is pretty much a remake to look out for. When I was getting excited about this series and looking forward to how it will help usher in some new fans to the franchise, this is what I'm talking about. It's still quite early to its run, but we'll see how it goes moving forward. For now, this gets my pick as one of the top shonen for recapturing the magic of the original while giving it a fresh coat of paint for the modern times.
Has inflation got you feeling your money is slowly wasting away?
Tokyo Revengers marks our
I didn't
approach
watch
to
this
the
one though.
halfway
I'm
point.
not gonna lie.
Huh?
I was supposed to watch it, but I don't really want to watch it.
Time loop stories have been quite popular.
Because the main
for a
character
long
is like
time,
a
but they
side
seem
character in this
confined
anime,
to more
bro.
mature target audiences,
Like, everybody
with the likes
around him
of
is just
Steins
better than
Gate,
him, bro.
Madoka, and ReZero, amongst others. Thus, it felt fitting for a battle-oriented shonen series to take a crack at the concept. Tokyo Revengers takes that time loop premise and adds a rugged, battle-oriented feel to it, and it just works. While people often see battle shonen as a genre that's full of the supernatural and magical battles, Tokyo Revengers remains relatively true and grounded with the gritty reality of gang warfare. Not to say that the show is realistic or anything like that, but comparing it to its popular peers, which seems to be mostly geared towards fantasy, Tokyo Revengers does carve a pretty unique niche for itself. It's a show that's simply full of hot-blooded moments that get you all pumped up with adrenaline. Tokyo Revengers has great fights, memorable characters, and a good serving of character drama along for the ride. It's not surprising that the series has quickly gained momentum and popularity, and if the feel of the series appeals to you, you should really give this one a try. And if you're enjoying this video, why don't you try hitting that like and subscribe button as well? I'd really appreciate it. Let's talk about Trigun Stampede.
No, then watch it. Whoa.
In the same vein as Kenshin from a while ago, we once again take a look at a reimagination of a timeless classic. Trigun didn't feel like it had the same level of cultural impact Rurouni Kenshin had back in the day, but it had just as strong of a foundation with its story and characters. And with this modern version, Trigun Stampede, I'm pleased to see that a lot of what I liked about classic Trigun returned. There's a shift in focus for Trigun Stampede, with it placing a lot of emphasis on the main protagonist. As a result, it becomes more of a character-oriented piece of work, and I think it works pretty well for both OG fans and people coming in to try to see what the buzz is all about. Don't let the implications of being a character-oriented work throw off your expectations, however, since Trigun Stampede still has a lot of other things that make shows in the genre work. Immersive fights, some comedy, and an interesting world. Think of this as a modern take on Trigun that's quite similar from the original, yet carrying its own charm with its overall modernized look and change in main focus. There's some CG that might deter people, but I guarantee it'll be a good watch for fans of action shonen. If you're up for something super light-hearted, however,
I'm
you'll
watching
like
it.
this
I mean,
next
I already watched
entry,
the manga.
Mashle.
That's actually what it
There's
did,
something
bro.
really charming with what I feel is a new take on the whole One Punch Man trend. Secret overpowered character entering a world where he
When I
gets to
think about it,
showcase his skills in some of the most over-the-top ways
It's pretty
possible.
similar,
There's always a
yeah.
market for these kinds of
It's
parody
pretty
shows, and among
similar.
them, I do think that Mashle is
You
one
got
of the
a
better
point.
ones from
I
the
never
recent
thought about
years.
that.
Whether Mashle clicks with you is largely dependent on how much you adore the concept of dumb fun. It's not going to win any awards in terms of being super original, but the execution is very well done. It's really chill, it's got pretty cool animation, and this is a show that knows its identity and does a great job in pushing what it does well. If you're a fan of something like Psyche or One Punch Man and want to capture the feeling of loving those kinds of shows, then this is surely something to keep in your crosshairs. In the whole over-the-top fun department, it's one of the best in recent memory. The next title ain't no laughing matter,
Whoa,
however.
what's this?
Welcome to the
I
world
saw this somewhere.
of Hell's Paradise. A away with the parodying and the light-hearted fun.
What's this?
Hell's Paradise takes us to a grim and treacherous world
Now you
full
got
of
my
dangers at
attention.
every corner, yet carries with itself a sense of mystical wonder. That's exactly the feel that the manga intended, and the anime adaptation to this fast-rising action-adventure story nailed that atmosphere to a T. Hell's Paradise is quickly becoming one of the best shonen titles to see its debut the past 3 years, and it just
Whoa.
keeps getting better and better. Hell's Paradise may not have become a runaway mainstream success that had even non-anime fans going gaga or singing its opening, but the show in itself exudes a unique kind of artistic
Paradise,
energy.
huh?
Instead of falling in line with the more mainstream hits, Hell's Paradise kind of finds itself in the territory where I placed Kemono Jihen previously, the darker, more methodical type of shonen that carries an artistic flair that's more expected of a cult classic.
Yeah, I'm
It's got
watching
a lot
it
of the
after
thrilling
this, but
fights in a world that's
after this
beautifully
video,
crafted
I'm
and
watching
full
it
of
ASAP,
intrigue.
bro.
It sure is a joy
No
seeing a
cap,
lot of
I'm
anime
watching it,
fans
bro.
experiencing
Nah,
the
this shit
series.
got my
You
attention.
should
I
join
did
the
saw it
party too.
before, but I didn't see all of those clips. Nah, I'm watching it.
Chainsaw Man then takes those key
I didn't
points
watch
and
this
pushes
one,
it
but I'll
to
read the
another
manga
level.
though. Maki.
When it comes to unhinged violence, dark and devilish appeal, and questions regarding morality, Chainsaw Man takes those themes into overdrive. With that kind of appeal, it's not surprising that the show ended up being one of the biggest hits of 2022 for anime fans, especially given that it's part of a demographic intended for younger, more impressionable audiences. To see something as for adults in air quotes in the way it portrays its characters or battles ought to turn some eyes, and it did so in a big way. Chainsaw Man oozes rebel energy. From the way it looks to the opening themes, the fights are insanity personified, and they do such an excellent job in keeping people talking and watching week in and week out. I do think that the one thing holding Chainsaw Man back from the mainstream is how it's not universally appealing. It's way easier to introduce your family to something like Demon Slayer, for example, but going that route will lose Chainsaw Man its identity. Instead, it feeds into the whole rebel energy I talked about and firmly erects its signature foothold in the shonen sphere. Lastly, I have Jujutsu Kaisen,
Of course.
my top pick for new shonen of 2020 to 2023.
Of course. Yeah.
It's really easy putting Jujutsu Kaisen here and at the top of this list. Not only is it one of the most popular shonen hits, it's got elements that epitomize what a quintessential era-defining shonen is like. Breathtaking fights, a simple plot that's got a lot more going on
But
underneath the surface,
Jujutsu
and
Kaisen gonna
interesting
be long
and
as
creative
fuck though,
powers.
because I read the
It's no
manga is
wonder
not
that
even
this show
over.
has quickly taken its place as one of the most popular titles, and deservingly so. Animation and fight choreography mainly take center stage amongst the things that people praise when it comes to Jujutsu Kaisen, and while that's not misplaced, I would also love to bring attention to the really fun character dynamics the show boasts. In my opinion, the chemistry between members of the cast is such an important part of making a battle shonen great, and it's something that this show has that just doesn't get talked about as much as the animation. Jujutsu Kaisen knows its audience and what they want, as well as the character tropes of the battle shonen genre. It feeds them those elements, only to add some twists along the way to keep them pretty fresh. It also masterfully integrates the horror elements and darker aspects without the dark and edgy feeling too overwhelming, thus helping maintain the series' mass appeal, which I think is yet another underrated point that I just love about the show. It's too hasty to crown it king of the genre this early, but seeing Jujutsu Kaisen take the lead in the 2020s generation of battle shonen gives me confidence that the genre is in good hands.
Kyoshiki Murasaki.
And that certainly is a way to wrap up today's list. Now, that's my list.
Yeah, I gotta watch
What does
the
your list look like?
that samurai shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? The one I said I was gonna watch it after the video. Yeah, I need to watch it, bro.